Okay, if you're a We Seek, We Find fan, you're going to like this one. I've got a very nice number jump to show you. It comes off the back really of this video here that We Seek, We Find did a couple of weeks ago now. And just to do a little rant, um, there is an entity out there that um, has regurgitated this idea and kind of claimed it as their own, which the reason why I bring it up is because I know the same entity has regurgitated some of my stuff and claimed it as their own as well. Whether or not it's a mistake on their part, or whether or not they don't remember seeing something and then, come up with it later, I don't know. But again, it's kind of frustrating to see people out there. It's nice to see people, like I say, regurgitating the work, but it's kind of frustrating to see the credit not being given and somebody else claiming it as their own idea, and we don't really know. It probably isn't their own idea. So that becomes a little frustrating to me to see people doing that, and it's just a reflection of how, what I want to say. It's just the way society is right now. The standards have dropped, and people, do things that aren't really, upstanding, so to speak. And this is the whole reflection of the way the world's become. People that just kind of copy stuff and don't give correct, um, sort of gratitude where it's due. Um, you know, but again, I'm getting a bit sidetracked on a rant here, and apologies to the guy if he really did forget where he'd seen it and he thought he'd come up with it by himself or whatever. But anyway, back to We Seek, We Find. Great stuff that he's churning out right now. But in this video that I'm looking at here, he is looking at the death of the Pope here with the 421 on Donnie Darko's arm, and then there's 28 days, the 28 that's over here. If you go 28 days on from that date, it's going to take you to the 519 date that We Seek, We Find seems to have this knack of finding. Okay, what is interesting about this in this video, he's making this connection between the Pope with the bunny ear hat, and the name obviously of Francis, which is Frank, and Frank is the bunny rabbit in Donnie Darko. Okay, now I thought, you know what, I'm gonna do this. I thought about this when I saw this video originally, and I've just thought about it when I've just seen the Rip-Off Merchant do the video as well. I just watched his video, and so in a way, it's interesting that it sparked my sort of interest in this again, and the interest to do a little number jump here, because what I'm going to be showing you is just one number jump, and it comes from, actually, if we just drop back here, it comes from 2001: A Space Odyssey. Okay, and I keep mentioning Space Odyssey references with the idea of Dave Bowman, Odysseus returning home. Okay, and this idea of shooting the arrow through the eye of the axe head, which always to me seems like a good reference back to Jurassic Liar's Space Needle. Okay, like if the ring of the Space Needle was to drop, it would symbolize the arrow shooting into the axe head, so to speak. And so you'd have a really interesting piece of physical symbolism in the world to represent that idea. Anyway, if we look at the film itself, spoiler alert, there are two main characters that are on the ship. Okay, and of course Hal 9000 goes nutso and ends up killing one of them. Okay, and who he kills is Frank. So we have this connection back to Frank again, and it's Frank Poole, played by Gary Lockwood, who gets killed, right? And so, this is the idea of killing the false ego, you know, letting go of the fictional birth certificate person, that idea. You have to let go of those things in order to become sovereign again, in order to come out of the matrix, to be reborn. So Kia Dulia is the one that's going to be reborn. This is Dave Bowman, okay, in the film. Anyway, if we do look at Gary Lockwood's date of birth, okay, what is interesting is, and in fact what's interesting about all these characters, the Pope, Kia Dulia and Gary Lockwood, are all 88 years old right now. So let's look at let's look at the number jump. This is what's really interesting. Let's look at the number jump from Gary Lockwood's birthday through to the 519 that is in that is shown there in the We Seek We Find video. Okay, so if we see, and again, 212, let me just explain something. In fact, I think I've still got the Donnie Darko arm up. If you notice the 212 here, yeah, the 21st of February, that's in here as well. Okay, that's kind of interesting as well. Okay, but again, we come through from that date, and we come through 88 years and 88 days. It's going to bring us through to 519, right? So this is, again, this is truly amazing that we've got this double 88 coming up. And again, with the 3223 0, if we drop that 0 off, we've got a nice palindromic number, yeah, i.e. reflected number. And again, obviously 2001 done by Stanley Kubrick. And if we go back to The Shining with the room 237, I was just talking about the 237, and what is interesting about the 237, as I was relating it back to the 3 cycles, the Triple Crown, which, interestingly enough, I wonder whether Sovereignty will will do the Triple Crown this year. It might be worth putting a fiver on. I don't know. But anyway, the 237 with the gold and the Triple Crown, definitely interesting. And what's interesting about this 3223 is that if you watch that decoder mine, the 23 is sort of mirrored in relationship to the number 7. I think it was the number 17, the numbers 1 and 7. Okay, and so this is super duper fascinating to me. Maybe I will do a deeper decode on it at a later date. Maybe do a few more number jumps, because I really haven't done any number jumps. If we go from the Pope's birthday through to Gary Lockwood's birthday, 66 days, reminds me of Back to the Future, the end of 2 going into 3, and the fire trails that are up in the sky. Yeah, so going back to the Wild West, quite fascinating. And what's also fascinating is that obviously Kia Dulia's birthday here is just a day off of Clint Eastwood's here. Okay, I don't know what year. I can't remember what year Clint Eastwood was born. A fair bit earlier. But anyway, I think he was born a little bit earlier. Anyway, I can't remember the year for Clint Eastwood. But anyway. Fascinating stuff, especially with the whole thing with the Kentucky Derby, again with the 5-3 numerology. And if we go from Kia Dulia's birthday through to the death of the Pope, again we've got 88 years with the 326 number showing up again that we've talked about I don't know how many times now. It just seems to just be constantly reoccurring in videos, and obviously this connection to the Hoover Dam with that, but obviously the connection to the Key Bridge, and obviously the Pope, the Pontiff, the bridge. Okay, again, the 326 at the end of this, kind of interesting. I'm going to leave it there. I don't really have. Sorry about the rant at the start of there, but I'm going to leave it there for this one. Yeah, it would be nice. It would be polite if people, would give credit where credit is due. I know it takes a lot of time to make videos, and it just is frustrating to see people use information that maybe they're not aware that they had picked it up somewhere else before, and that's where most of us do get our information, is we've seen it somewhere, and we've seen somebody else's channel, and we try to remember where we've seen it and try to give credit. But I certainly, if I've seen, I hate to start ranting again, but if I have seen that information, if I've seen some information that I'm passing on, I always try to give credit. It's helpful in the sense that the viewer can now go and look up where I've seen it, and maybe they'll find something else out, along the way there, But to sort of try to own that information and not give credit it's just a little dishonest. That's all I think. Anyway, all right, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on another one soon. All right, cheers, bye.